everyone, and welcome to Sunday service. It's nice to see you all and be sharing this time together. For those who don't know us, I am Nayaswami Daiva, and this is Nayaswami Gangamata. We have a couple of different things we're going to celebrate this morning. One of them is the topics, common sense versus dogmatism and forgiveness. And those are priceless topics and perhaps appropriate for what's happening for many people at this time. But also, this is a magical weekend, and it comes every year. We're blessed in this path to awakening in God with 5 spiritual masters and one very close and deep direct disciple of one of them who actually founded Ananda back in the 60s based on his time and attunement with Paramahansa Yogananda. When great masters come into this world, a great light is brought in, and during the day, during the moments when that's happening, the veils actually thin between this world and this illusion, and the actual the capacity for direct perception of spirit increases. And on March 7th, in 1952, Paramahansa Yogananda passed. Again, when they pass, there's this great thinning of the veils. And then March 9th, in 1936, Swami Sri Yukteswar, his guru, passed. And so in these couple of days, there's this great capacity, if we tune in and listen and are receptive, to feel the presence of spirit more easily than we might otherwise. And so Gangamata will be kind of talking about the blessings of their lives and their missions. But it seemed appropriate to just discuss for a little bit the topic of forgiveness, the experience of life is very seldom what any one of us really expects. Anybody ever notice that? We're going along thinking we got everything under control, everything's just going along the way it ought to go, and all of a sudden something happens and it just doesn't look the same anymore. And often these things fly in the face of our expectations of how life ought to be and what ought to be going on. And we have a real interesting choice. And a lot the choice that we end up with is based in our point of reference, but often in these moments the choice that we make will color and inform the experience of life going forward from that time. And it's amazing how very short periods of time can often color decades or incarnations. I remember that in 1989, I was serving in the Ananda Palo Alto community. And we were rebuilding it. You know, I have a history of spiritual relationship through construction and rebuilding or building. And I was upstairs in one of the apartments. It was a 72-unit apartment complex that was in an Ananda community. It was just getting founded. And I was upstairs and I was tiling a bathroom. And I'd been kind of coordinating a whole group of people, about 40 people were working on different parts of the apartments. And I was managing that, but I was also doing some work on the side. And I was in the middle of tiling a bathroom about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And all of a sudden, I heard somebody coming up the stairs. And I figured, okay, somebody's coming up to talk to me. Then I heard somebody really big coming up the stairs. Then I heard somebody really big really coming up the stairs, and then all of a sudden I realized that I didn't know anybody that big. The earthquake happened. I mean, in a process of about, 1 second, 2 seconds, that was the process of, oh, somebody's coming. Oh, wow, who the heck is that? Oh my God. And I'm on the second floor, and it's my first experience. I come from the Midwest. There, they have tornadoes, which is for Californians is a really big thing. But, in my experience, the wind is supposed to move. In California, the wind doesn't move so much, but the ground does. Is this a little unsettling to anybody? It was a little stunning to me. So anyway, I kind of tried to figure out what to do, and I got up, and I finally stood in a doorway, and it was a great ride. It was 45 seconds. It was 45 seconds of very intense energy. And just as soon as it was I could feel that it was receding, I mean, the buildings kind of went like this, and all of a sudden it went, boom, and then it was done. And I went running down the stairs and out, and the swimming pool, I swear to God, it was one of the most remarkable things. The trees were just bending side to side and touching the ground on either side. And the swimming pool was like a giant had been in the bathtub, doing this, kind of sloshing back and forth. And it was vivid. It was really vivid. But I just, we've been trained in yoga, been trained in breathe through life, and whatever comes, just, there it is. So I just kind of tuned in. I went and found the people who were responsible for the community. We went and made sure that there were no gas leaks, that everybody was okay, no buildings had collapsed. And then I went down to the triage center. And I was stunned at what I found there. And I was stunned at what I found since then. I found people with nothing wrong with them that were absolutely traumatized. And I found people with things that were wrong with them traumatized, and I found people that weren't and not. But I was stunned at how much you could see that their psychology had been imprinted with this experience, and they had no category for it, no place to put it, and that it was going to inform their lives going forward. A sense of security, a sense of stability, a sense of wholeness was gone. If you can't count on this being solid, what in God's name can you count on? Of course, you have to find it inside. I'm surprised at how many people in the Bay Area still talk about that time. I'm surprised. I've got a friend who she's a dear friend. She's probably about 75 now, maybe 80. She still refers to her college times as the best part of her life. What happened in between? What happened that closed her heart, that life didn't get better across time? She's a vital person. It's not like she's all shriveled up and stuff, but there's just something that gets missed. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with how we respond to the experiences that we have. My ways are not your ways, saith the Lord. That's from the Bible. Life is not designed to give us comfort, although it can periodically for periods of time. Life is not designed to fit into our mold and work the way we want. Life is designed to wake us up, to bring us, each one of us, step by step into the experience of our oneness with Spirit. That we are none of these little things. We are the overarching vibration and consciousness of love, of joy, of kindness, of freedom. And that all that's going on the surface is just this play of light and dark. And they exactly balance each other. Anybody who doesn't understand that is in real trouble. In fact, Yogananda went so far as to say, and I think he was referring to this exact fact, that those who do not know how to live in this world is a terrible machine that will tear you limb from limb. Because light and dark in this world will always alternate exactly and balance across the eons of incarnations, will always balance equally. So if things are really good right now, don't get too excited. And if they're really bad, don't get really depressed. I love the song that Dumbara sang this morning. Every grief, every wrong has its ending in song. The resolution of everything, if we cooperate with it. If we don't assume, forgiveness comes from the sense that something's wrong. The need for forgiveness comes from a constriction of the heart that somehow we are a victim of our own lives. That life is doing something to us instead of giving something to us, instead of providing for us an opportunity to grow in understanding, an opportunity to discover what's true beyond the illusion, beyond time, beyond space, beyond disease, beyond event, beyond death, beyond everything. There's something there that's so beautiful, that's so meaningful, that's so rich, and that we yearn for all the time. But when life comes to us and says, wait, expand your perception, take in more, don't be afraid of this, let this flow through you also. We go, oh no, not this. Oh no, not this. And we shrink down and we contract and we enforce our will and we insist and we resent. And forgiveness is the release of that resentment. It's the release of the constriction of the heart. But if we never constrict, then we've got nothing to forgive. There's a beautiful story. I'm going to stop in just a moment, but this is one of the most poignant examples of what can be done. Because, well, there's two of them. One of them is Corrie ten Boom. She was a victim. She and her family, her father, and I think her sister Betsy, they sheltered Jews from the Holocaust, and they were caught, and they were thrown into concentration camps themselves. And Betsy and Corrie were in the same place, and their father never made it out. And in the course of time, Betsy also lost her life in this situation. And Corrie was speaking of this experience many years later to an audience, and after the talk, picture this is as horrific an experience, a human experience, as is possible on this planet. After this event, a man came up to her, and he was a receiving line, and he was in it, and he stopped in front of her, and he wept, and he said, "I am one of the people that was a soldier at the concentration camp where you were." And he said, "I beg your forgiveness." And she said she knew in that moment she did not have the capacity. At a human level, she did not have the capacity to offer that. But she knew that if she stayed in the place that she was, that something precious would be lost, that God was asking something. And so what she said was, inside, she said, "Lord, I can't do this, but you can." And she opened her heart, and she forgave the man. She allowed God to forgive him through her. And she speaks of it as one of the more poignant moments of her life, because even though she didn't have the human capacity to do it, I mean, these are the extremes of human experience, it was able to be done through her. And it changed him. There's a story in Gandhi, and this is the one I was going to tell. We can't undo what we've done. You know, the times that we've done things that have been hurtful, the times that we've done things that have been misunderstood, you can't go back and undo that. Forgiveness isn't about being able to undo what's done. It's about freeing up the energy. It's about not getting caught in it. And there's this beautiful scene. I mean, it's so poignant. Gandhi, I believe it's in Calcutta. It's during the time just before independence, just before the great splitting. It's around the time of independence. It's around the time that the Muslims and the Hindus are finding themselves unable to reconcile their lives. And there's tremendous rioting and bloodshed. And Gandhi knows that his presence is so powerful that if he fasts, people will turn their attention away from their hatred of each other toward him. And so he starts to fast. And in the movie portrayal, and I don't know how much of this is Hollywoodized, but in the movie portrayal, what happens is he's lying there just really about, his kidneys are about to fail, he's about ready to leave the planet, and a man comes up, and he's allowed up on the rooftop where Gandhi's staying, and he says, "We quit. We quit. Stop fasting. Stop this. We will cease our violence." And he says, "You know, I already am going to hell. I've done so many horrific things that there's no place for me anymore. But I won't go to hell." He says, "I won't go to hell with your life on my conscience." Gandhi says to him, "What did you do?" And he says, "Well, many things, but I took, in my anger and my hatred, I took a child. They took a child from me. They took my child, and they, in the midst of this violence, they took my child, and they bashed his head against the wall, and they killed him." And he said, "So I went out." He was a Hindu man. He said, "So I went out, and I found a Hindu child the same age, or a Muslim child the same age, and I bashed his head against the wall. I killed him as they had killed my own." He says, I'm going to hell, but not with you on my conscience. Gandhi took a moment and he listened inside. Way past dogmatism, way past you're going to hell and that's the best that's going to happen. He listened and he said, I think I know a way out of hell for you. He said, go and find a Muslim child like this, whose parents, whose parents have been killed in the violence, and take him into your home as your own, and raise him as your own. But be sure that you raise him as a Muslim. God wants us to expand our sympathies. He wants us to expand our understanding, the magic and the beauty and the miracles that would happen that these masters come to remind us of. Come from taking in what we've done, taking in what's there, expanding our understanding, and becoming channels for increasing harmony and light.
Good morning, everyone. Years before him, and Babaji says this, it's I who have commissioned you to do this great work. I was at the Kumbh Mela, it's a big celebration in India, and I met your guru, Sri Yukteswar, and I told him I would be sending you to him to be trained. And you're going to go and spread the teachings of Kriya Yoga. You're going to go spread the teachings of self-realization to distant lands. And you can only imagine, here is Yogananda, a young man, and here is Babaji appearing before him. Babaji, for those who don't know, he's the deathless saint. He doesn't appear very easily to people. And there you can only imagine, I know for myself, if I had seen Babaji, I'd want to go running towards him and just hug him, being a good Italian. But there he was in the story, and if you have a chance, read the chapter. It's just really delightful. Babaji, Yogananda goes to reach for him, and he finds his feet are firmly rooted, and he just can't get there. And then Babaji disappears, and he knows what his mission is. But you would think, here is an avatar, is a master, is a self-realized saint. Here you would think, then he has this mission. It's not a selfish mission. It's a mission to spread the teachings of Kriya Yoga to those who have not heard of these teachings. You would think the Divine Mother would open up the doors for him. It was hard. Again, if you read that chapter, he didn't know if he could even get on the boat. It was full. He had to wait for that opportunity. He had no money for the trip. He had that obstacle. And it's a very sweet story. His father eventually gave him the money for the trip, and he said, I'm not giving you this money as your father. I'm giving you this money as a disciple of your guru's guru, Lahiri Mahashaya, because I want to support the spread of these teachings to the West. And so then if you read the rest of the book and other books, the story is written. Yogananda lands in Boston. There he finds himself, I think it was even on the boat, he was expected to speak once again to so many people, and he realized, I don't know how to speak English. And there he's standing up there, okay, and he's praying, you're going to need to flow through me here. You're going to need to help me out here. And then he does. And he spoke eloquently, it says in the book, for like 45 minutes. And when he sat down, he never even really knew what he said. But afterwards, people came up and congratulated him or commented. He got so much feedback that what he said was so inspiring. And then the story's told. He lands in Boston, speaks before just many groups there, and he travels throughout the country, and he's giving lectures and speaking. He starts a work in Los Angeles. It's amazing what he did. That was 1920 when he left for America. And fast forward many years, it's 1935 when he does his first trip back to India. Can you imagine, after being gone for 15 years? Goes back to India. One of his desires that he wanted to do is he wanted to go see his guru. There's a beautiful chapter here. As Daiva mentioned, Sri Yukteswar passed away on March 9th, and this is a chapter, just a little reading I'm going to share. It's here, Yogananda, it's been 15 years. He's lectured before thousands of people. He's an avatar, he's a master. Here he still has this very intimate relationship with his guru. This is chapter 42, called The Last Days with My Guru. He said, Guruji, I am glad to find you alone this morning. I had just arrived at the Serampore Hermitage carrying a fragrant burden of fruit and roses. Sri Yukteswar glanced at me meekly. It's the tradition when you go back to see your guru, you bring him fruits, flowers, whatever. And here his guru is just glancing at him meekly. What is your question? Master looked about the room as though he were seeking escape. Guruji, I came to you as a high school youth. Now I am a grown man, even with a gray hair or two. Though you have showered me with silent affection from the first hour to this, do you realize that once only on the day of our meeting have you ever said, I love you? I looked at him pleadingly. Master lowered his gaze. Yogananda, must I bring out into the cold realms of speech the warm sentiments best guarded by the wordless heart? Guruji, I know you love me, but my mortal ears ache to hear you say so. Be it as you wish. During my married life, I often yearned for a son to train in the yogic path, but when you came into my life, I was content. In you, I have found my son. 2 clear teardrops stood in Sri Yukteswar's eyes. Yogananda, I love you always. Your answer is my passport to heaven. I felt a weight lift from my heart, dissolved forever at his words. Often I had wondered at his silence, realizing that he was unemotional and self-contained, yet sometimes I feared I had been unsuccessful in fully satisfying him. His was a strong nature ever utterly to be known, a nature deep and still, unfathomable to the outer world, whose values he had long transcended. It's a beautiful story of the love between the guru and his guru, and it's a reminder of also how Yogananda always lived. I was thinking, what's the difference between us and an avatar? Well, the guru always turns his heart to God. Guru always, everything that happens, good, bad, as Daiva was saying, the world will betray us. Our friends never last, or our houses never last, anything. None of these things stay. But the one thing that does stay is our love for the guru. Daiva mentioned the earthquake. I was in the earthquake also, though we did not know each other at the time. I was working in an advertising agency at the time, right in downtown San Francisco. Our building was right next to the water. So we had gorgeous views of the bay. And I was raised on the East Coast, so I was never trained, what do you do in an earthquake? I know what to do in a hurricane, I think, but on the East Coast we don't have earthquakes. But I remember that moment when the ground started to shake, and I don't know why I knew what to do, but I had my own office. I got under my desk, and I had a 4-drawer file cabinet. It just literally went like that. The door slammed shut. I got under my desk on all fours. This was before I learned yoga. And I started saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. But then the next thought I realized, I didn't know who my God was. I was like, oh my God. And I got out of the office. My first thought wasn't to go look for safety. My first thought really deep down was like, where is my God? And I remember opening my door, and I had beautiful views of the bay. In one moment, I can see the Oakland Bay Bridge. The next moment, I didn't. And then I saw it again, and then I didn't see it. It was swaying. There was so much tension in our building, too. It shook a lot because it was engineered to shake during an earthquake. So we were rock and rolling, even though we were only on the 9th floor. It was very exciting. But for me, that was the start of my search for God. And I'm so grateful to this path, to Yogananda saying yes to Babaji, to saying yes to the training that he received from his guru. As we can see just from this little vignette, there was so much love shared between them. It's so clear, but it wasn't easy, was it? We hear other stories, Yogananda was stern, and Diva mentioned his comment, learn to behave, and all of this. He wasn't easy with his disciple, but he did that. It wasn't personal. It was for him to be ready to come and share these teachings to the West. And so we have an opportunity. We have these teachings of self-realization, we always say with a capital S, so that we can know we're that light, love, joy. And then as Diva was saying, there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to worry about. The chant that was led before the service, God alone, let nothing disturb you, nothing affright you, nothing changes. God never changes. And so the opportunity and the reminder, as Diva was saying, when these veils thin, they're whispering ever so more loudly at us, remember who you really are. I want to end with a beautiful poem from Yogananda. It's from Songs of the Soul, and it's called When I Am Only a Dream. So let's go ahead and close our eyes and gently roll our shoulders back and feel for the Guru's presence. These are his words. I come to tell you all of him and the way to encase him in your bosom, and of the discipline that brings his grace. And those of you who have asked me to guide you to my beloved's presence, I warn you through my silently talking mind, or speak to you through a gentle, significant glance, or whisper to you through my love, or loudly dissuade you when you stray away from him. But when I shall become only a memory, or a mental image, or a silently speaking voice, when no earthly call will ever reveal my whereabouts in unplumbed space, when no shallow entreaty or stern stentorian command will bring from me an answer, I will smile in your mind when you are right, and when you are wrong, I will weep through my eyes, dimly peering at you in the dark, and weep through your eyes perchance, and I will whisper to you through your conscience, and I will reason with you through your reason, and I will love all through your love. When you are able no longer to talk with me, read my whispers from eternity. Eternally through it I will talk to you. Unknown I will walk by your side and guard you with invisible arms. And as soon as you know my beloved and hear his voice in silence, you will know me again more tangibly than you knew me on this earthly plane. And yet when I am only a dream to you, I will come to remind you that you too are not but a dream of my heavenly beloved. And when you know you are a dream, as I know now, we will be ever awake in him. Om.